Mima is a member of a J-pop idol group called Cham, but she's decided to leave the group to pursue a career as a full-time actress. Her partners are sad, but they've accepted that their friend wants to move on. Her fans are devastated. Her managers are a bit frustrated. But this is something Mima has to do for herself. But there's at least one person that isn't okay with Mima moving on. A very big fan of Cham. And they consider her departure from the group to be a traitorous act. That this new version of Mima is actually an imposter. She was already feeling regret for leaving and uncertain about the future. But now her sense of safety and privacy is shattered as her stalker becomes more and more aggressive, as her own sanity starts to slip away. Perfect Blue is a 1997 anime based off the novel Perfect Blue: Complete Metamorphosis. It was directed by Satoshi Kon, who was starting in animation back in 1991, but this was his debut as a director. He would only make 4 films before he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he passed away half a year later at only 46 years old. He was beloved, and everything he created is incredible. Starting with this first feature-length movie, he has a very noticeable theme that carries on throughout the rest of his work. He likes to blur the lines between fantasy and reality, and with this largely being from a psychological viewpoint about identity and madness. You can't trust what's going on, just like Mima can't trust what's going on. And it's very easy to get turned around watching this movie. But it's something worth getting lost in. Perfect Blue at least has the courtesy to ease you into the insanity. It starts off calm enough. She goes on errands, she relaxes at home. She has a relatively quiet and private life, apart from being a J-pop idol. Her acting gig doesn't really seem to be going anywhere, but she's determined. And her only real close ally at this point is her manager Rumi, who is also an ex-idol. Rumi gets her hooked onto the World Wide Web, and Mima discovers her fan page, which has horrifyingly intimate details about her private life. She also receives a fan letter, which was opened by her agent, and the letter was an explosive. She starts becoming paranoid. She feels like she's being watched. And there's this really great moment on the set of Double Bind, where she feels like everyone is not only staring at her, but laughing at her. There are lots of moments in this movie where you aren't positive if something is really happening or if what you're seeing is just her perception of events. And things will get more and more muddled as the literal danger starts to ramp up. But by this point, you should be following along just fine. It isn't until Mima agrees to a larger part in the gritty detective show, one that involves a rape scene. She doesn't want to. It's clear that she's being taken advantage of. But she also doesn't want to be a problem. She's an actor now. She wants to jump in with both feet. The sexual exploits don't stop there. And meanwhile, Cham has never been more successful. She knows she can't turn back. Her perfect image is now tainted forever. She starts suffering from paranoid delusions, and it's from this point on, you cannot be positive about anything that's happening on the screen anymore. The movie itself becomes totally unhinged because Mima's mental health is gone. And the second half of this movie is one prolonged fever dream. Some hallucinations are obvious, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes you're not even positive if actual violence is happening or not, or if it's just an echo from her persona on the detective show, or if something is just a literal nightmare. It just turns into this horrifying loop of repeating events, but her distortions are intensifying. And anytime you might start to think, oh, I get it now, it pulls the rug out from under you. No, you do not get it now. But eventually, the movie does come to a satisfying conclusion. Even if you don't entirely trust it, or you had just mentally checked out before it got there. Totally fair. I'm actually going to avoid directly spoiling the very end just because I feel like it wouldn't really contribute much to this one-sided discussion that we're having, and if anyone hasn't seen it and it looks good, then you should check it out. It's deeply upsetting and unsettling, and it'll leave you feeling sick to your stomach, not just from the graphic and sexual violence, but from the disturbing and realistic depiction of celebrity worship and obsession. If you think you can stomach it, and if you are a fan of psychological thrillers, this movie is just perfect.